I'm E.G. Marshall, and I'd like to invite you to a special presidential press conference with John F. Kennedy. In 1961, in this auditorium, JFK pioneered the first regularly scheduled live presidential news conferences. Before Kennedy, presidents spoke to reporters privately. Often questions had to be written out, submitted in advance. If a chief executive made a mistake, lost his temper, had his facts wrong, there was time to fix it up before it went out to the public. Kennedy changed that. With hundreds of reporters in these seats, he faced the issues and questions of his day with the nation watching. 61 times during his presidency, he walked through those doors. The reporters would stand and wait for his signal to be seated. And 61 times, the senior correspondent ended the conference with the traditional, "Thank you, Mr. President." For those who remember the original telecasts, and for those who may never have seen one, we've gone through all the conferences and put together a program that we hope captures John F. Kennedy's wit, mind, and candor. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
I have several announcements to make. First is one made at the request of Mrs. Kennedy. Since the election, the birth of our son, and the inauguration, Mrs. Kennedy and I have received over 100,000 letters and telegrams of congratulations and good wishes. They are now building up in available rooms at the White House. Unfortunately, it's not going to be possible for us to acknowledge and answer as we would like to answer each and every message. And therefore, I wish to take this opportunity on behalf of Mrs. Kennedy and myself to thank everyone who has been so kind and generous.
Yes. 3 months ago, a federal court in New Orleans ordered 2 public schools there desegregated. Since then, what is apparently an organized campaign of intimidation has kept most white children out of those schools and effectively frustrated the court order.
As far as New Orleans goes, it is my position that all students should be given the opportunity to attend public schools regardless of their race, and that's in accordance with the Constitution. It is in accordance, in my opinion, with the judgment of the people of the United States, so there's no question about that. The broader question, of course, is, regardless of the court decisions, I believe strongly that every American should have an opportunity to have maximum development of his talent under the most beneficial circumstances. And that is what the Constitution provides. That's what I strongly believe.
Mr. President, General Eisenhower said the other night that he felt the present administration was spending too much money on defense.
I think we're spending a good deal of money on defense, and I don't enjoy it. But on the other hand, I think we live in a very dangerous world, and I believe that being strong helps maintain the peace. And I must say, on the one hand, we seem to be under attack by some Republicans for not doing enough to stand up to the communists, and the other by those who say we're spending too much on defense. I think there should be some coordination of policy, because it seems to me otherwise it may appear that the grand old party may be floundering. Yes.
Roving ambassador to Africa has been widely criticized for some of the statements he's made, that is Mr. Williams, including the one of Africa for Africans and the like.
The statement Africa for the Africans does not seem to me to be a very unreasonable statement. He made it clear that he was talking about all those who felt that they were Africans, whatever their color might be, whatever their race might be. And I don't know who else Africa should be for.
The furor over the Supreme Court's decision on prayer in the schools, some members of Congress have been introducing legislation, constitutional amendments, specifically to sanction prayer or religious exercise in the schools.
The Supreme Court has made its judgment. A good many people obviously will disagree with it. Others will agree with it. But I think that it is important for us, if we're going to maintain our constitutional principle, that we support Supreme Court decisions, even when we may not agree with them. In addition, we have in this case a very easy remedy, and that is to pray ourselves. And I would think that it would be a welcome reminder to every American family that we can pray a good deal more at home, we can attend our churches with a good deal more fidelity, and we can make the true meaning of prayer much more important in the lives of all of our children. That power is very much open to us. And I would hope that as a result of this decision that all American parents will intensify their efforts at home.
As a former member of the House of Representatives and the Senate, sir, how do you feel about proposals to increase the size of the House from the present number, 435?
Well, as a former member of the House, I would feel that it should be left to the members of the House of Representatives.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I'd like to ask you a two-part question. Do you think that Mr. Nixon should run for governor of California? And as a politician, Mr. President, what do you think of the advisability of a political party giving a defeated candidate a second chance at the presidency?
Well, I would think in answer to your first question, if Mr. Nixon asked my view as a fellow practitioner of the follower of the political profession, I'd be glad to give him my opinion, as I do have an opinion on the matter. But the second, I think that history is filled with the case of men who've been defeated for offices, who've continued their public service, and I think we've seen it very much in the last few years. I'm sure we'll see it in the next years.
Mr. President, the Democratic platform in which you ran for election promises to work for equal rights for women, including equal pay, to wipe out job opportunity discriminations. Now, you have made efforts on behalf of others. What have you done for the women according to the promises of the platform?
Well, I'm sure we haven't done enough, and I must say I am a strong believer in equal pay for equal work, and I think that we ought to do better than we're doing, and I'm glad that you reminded me of it, Mr. President.
Mr. President, Congressman Alger of Texas today criticized Mr. Salinger as a, quote, young and inexperienced White House publicity man, end quote. I questioned the advisability of having him visit the Soviet Union. I wonder if you have any comments.
I know there are always some people who feel that Americans are always young and inexperienced, and foreigners are always able and tough and great negotiators. But now he also, as I saw the press, said that Mr. Salinger's main job was to increase my standing in the Gallup poll. Having done that, he's now moving on to improve our communication.
The Attorney General, your brother, sir, has encountered evidence of a certain amount of hostility from student groups in various countries.
Well, one of the reasons that I was anxious to have the Attorney General make the trip was because of this very rather curious factor, because you would feel that students who are intellectually curious would be attracted by a free society which gives that intellectual curiosity a chance to develop rather than a totalitarian society. I think the Attorney General attempted to communicate that, but of course he is one voice, but he is attempting to, as you know, it's better to light a candle than curse the darkness. But I do agree with you that this is one of the most serious and I think in many ways stimulating problems that we face. How to tell our story in a way that makes it new and exciting to young students, and also have them examine objectively, under the light of present circumstances, the serious failures of the Marxist system, which can be told from the wall to China. And I think that's our job. And I think the trip's been worthwhile for that purpose alone.
Thank you, Mr. President.